What's happening, people? RyanAndrz here. Thank you for joining me to talk a little bit about locations. What are the top 3 things to think about when you're looking at locations? When you read a script or when you're writing a script, you've got to make sure you do these 3 things at least to make sure that you get a better chance of having a producible, financeable, makeable, successful feature film. Locations can be costly. So you have to make sure that when you're reading or writing a script, you are looking at where these locations take place. What locations do you need to get in order for those scenes in the story to be played out real? If you love this story, you love the character, and all of a sudden they find themselves in an airport terminal crowded with a bunch of people, you've got to red flag that scene. Now, that doesn't mean that the story and the script are kaput and you got to throw it out and you got to go get something else and keep reading scripts. No, that just means that you have to check your database in your brain, and maybe you've got a list of locations, and you got to look and see where that story can move from that place so that you can actually keep that story going without costing a ton of money on getting or building an airport hangar and filling it full of talent. We're not just talking about rent, we're talking about insurance, we're talking about permits, we're talking about hiring off-duty officers to babysit your talent and your crew and your set, make sure nobody's going 5 miles more than the speed limit just by your location. All these things are important, but come on, we're talking about independent film here. Sometimes even parking and travel to and from the location, hotels and food for all of your cast and crew. Locations can be very costly. So when you're reading and writing your stories, make sure that you keep that in mind. Now, it doesn't always have to be 2 actors in 1 house. No, you can crack it open a bit, but make it reasonable. Put them out in a park, take them to a local farmer's market, or get them in a mom and pop store from places that might want a little bit of credit on the back end of the movie for use of their space for the day, or overnight, so you can light it like day or whatever. But the idea is you can get these places, get them outside, and have more reasonable locations. Airport terminal, not so good. Mom and pop store, maybe that's gettable. Maybe you even know somebody, or a restaurant. You can move it from there to a restaurant and change that location out over to something that's going to be more manageable. One thing I definitely know, writers love to talk about their stories. The last thing you want to do is spend all this time writing on it, years usually, writing a story, building these characters, putting them in locations, putting them in positions and emotional places where they have to interact, and putting them in conflict and having them resolve that. Now, they love to talk about the story. They would rather not get placed in the back shelf and taken out of it completely. So here's a suggestion. You find these locations, you find a red flag when you're reading it, and you say, I can't do this, this is too expensive. Talk to the writer. They want to be involved. Anything they can do to make it more producible so you'll actually be able to make it, they want to make happen. They're very intense with their story, but they do want to see it made. So if you can talk to them and they stay involved and they're reasonable people, why not give them that opportunity to fix it? Why not say, hey, will you go through this script, look at all the locations that might make this a little bit more expensive, and try to adjust the story and put them in a place that I possibly can get. And here are some options for those locations. Bam, they'll go through, they'll have some ammunition to work with, and you'll get a better option and feel much better about it, making that film, and they will stay in the picture as well. Good stuff. Do not shoot in Los Angeles. Do not shoot in Chicago. Do not shoot in New York City. Why? Permits, rental fees, cops. Their commission is run by what you pay them in permits. Not just tax funding, but what you as a filmmaker pay them in permits. Once I was shooting in Los Angeles at a small, obscure park, just a tiny little thing. We were on the basketball court, and the second we roll the camera, a ranger pulls up, asks us for a permit. We had like 3 people there, and they shut us down, kicked us out of the park. Get out of here, man! On the opposite side of that coin, here in San Diego, I took a small crew over to the loading zone of the San Diego International Airport. We get out, we shoot a sequence out there in the loading zone, shoot a sequence up on the escalator. The security guards were just watching us. Oh, you guys are having a good time. What are you making? This is cool. And they just walk on by. Would that happen in LA, Chicago, or New York? No, absolutely not. Not gonna happen. Unless you've got a bunch of time and money on your hands, pick locations that are in real places that aren't those major cities so that you can get your film made without being bothered by the local law authorities and the government always wanting their shot at Let's tax this. Let's grab that. Let's permit this. There are some safety regulations that exist for a reason, and I understand that, but you're trying to get a film made, and as long as you don't feel like there's a ton of risk at stake here, you got to get your film made. So go and find a location that's going to make sense. Shoot in your hometown, shoot in your city, shoot at a place where your relatives live that's small, lakeside, something that you can get that's original, that doesn't look like everything else that's made. Do yourself a favor and do not let your locations own your budget. Rather, spend that money, if you have it, on rewrites to make that story more producible and get it out of those expensive locations. Secondly, spend that money on recognizable talent that will help your film be successful, not just well made, but also sellable. If you like this video, hit the subscribe button, click the like button, and we'll see you next time.